Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Honest HR Nitrous. I am Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for joining me today. This is episode 116 of Honest HR Nitrous. The title of this episode is You're Qualified, So Why No Interviews? Live career advice. So this is the live stream I do several times per week, where it's basically an interactive live stream for me. So if you are a subscriber to my channel, and you have been for any amount of time, you should be able to see a chat box and get in the chat box and ask me questions, whatever you're struggling with, whatever you're wondering to do with careers and job search. And I will do my best to answer your question and help you out. That's the whole point of this. Special shout out, as always, goes out to my YouTube channel members and my Patreons, my super thanks donors. Those are always nice to get. And to you, my viewers and participants, you guys are awesome. I took a couple of weeks off, but I'm back doing the live streaming, and we're going to get into this. So you're qualified. Why no interviews? Get in the chat. Let me know your thoughts on this, your questions. I don't have an agenda or anything to say. I'm here purely to answer your questions. So hopefully we'll be getting some of those. And as you can see, my widgets are now working again. I've been using Streamlabs OBS streaming software for several years now, and they to break it occasionally and then randomly fix it. So when you send some comments, they will now appear on the screen. Yeah, so it's interesting trying to get a job in 2025. A lot of people are feeling, the eventuality of where things have been going for many, many years, at least 10 years. We've been going down this trend. And that is that posted jobs are increasingly hard to get and more problematic. And instead, networking is more important than ever. Right now, if you are an introvert like me and you don't understand networking and you're confused about it, but you're wanting to see if you can find a way for it to work for you, you've come to the right place. That's what we talk about. That's what I talk about that I think a lot of recruiters and things don't talk about, because recruiters deal with posted jobs. That's what they deal with. Whereas, hopefully, anybody who's been doing this, you guys know that the vast majority of jobs that are out there are not posted. Now, you don't have to take my word for that. If this is a surprise to you or you've never heard that before, don't take my word for this. Go out and do your own research. You'll see that that's true. I mean, it's just as easy as going to ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or any of those kind of AI chatbots and asking them, or finding articles on the internet that talk about it. It's something like, I can't remember the latest stat, but it's around 80% of jobs that exist are not posted because they don't need to be. They don't have any trouble finding candidates for those jobs because those are very desirable jobs. So if this is all new to you, I encourage you, go out and do your own research on these things. Go look into it. It will be to your advantage to learn about this stuff. And if you have questions about how it works, come back and see me. I'm here to answer questions. Yeah. Hopefully somebody will get in the chat. Let me know what you're wondering about, and I will do my best to answer your question. That's the whole point of me doing these live streams. As I say, it took a couple of weeks off from live streaming, and quite frankly, I enjoyed the time off. It was a bit of a change. So, but I'm back, ready to get back in the saddle. Tong is here. Tong says, "Hey, Bill. Great to see you back. Hopefully you had a relaxing break." Yes, I did. I did indeed. And worked on quite a few things. And now I'm ready to come back. Worked on a bunch of stuff, actually, for this YouTube channel that will hopefully you guys might will start to see in the new year. Put it this way. I've made it to 500,000 subscribers by just doing it solo, doing all my editing, all my writing, all my filming, all my admin of my YouTube channel, comment moderation, everything, all me. Totally self-contained. But I've decided for 500,000 onwards, basically, I need to do what most YouTubers do, and they get like a team. They get a couple of people to help them and sort of do a division of labor thing there. So that's what I'm intending to do. So I've started to put some stuff in place. Let me know what your thoughts are on the job market, on hiring, on interviews, resumes, discovery of jobs, networking, all that kind of stuff. I was toying with the idea of going over some of the polls that I've posted on my channel that I get people to vote on, like it's a multiple choice question, and, giving my take on some of the questions. I ask questions that relate to careers and job search, and some that relate to business and stuff, because I'm trying to teach people concepts, maybe arrogantly, asking questions that clearly have a right answer or a wrong answer, but they make you think about something, and there's a learning opportunity right there. So I was toying with the idea. I don't have that stuff in front of me. Maybe I could pull it up. We could try that. And I'll share my screen if people are interested in that. And we can talk about it because, I get like a whole host of comments and stuff on these things. And, some of them are pretty interesting for a variety of reasons. While we're waiting for question, Jojo is here. Jojo says it's been hellish. Yeah, it has. Job search is always hellish to a degree, but a lot of times it stems from a lack of knowledge. It's like if you're a candidate, especially if you're young, you really don't understand what's going on the other end. The employers who are looking to hire, you don't really understand their perspective. You don't understand what they're thinking about, where their head's at, what motivates them for doing the things that they do, that kind of stuff. That's where a lot of it sort of stems from, Let's get into it. So Tong says, did I get swindled? I met an interview coach and he said I just needed to prepare some star stories and save to my brain. Is this really all the prep needed? Well, prep for what? Like, is this like you've never done a job interview before and this is the advice you're getting? That alone is not stupid advice, but saying that that's the only thing you need to do, I don't know about you in your case, but if you're just starting out, you've never done a job interview before, what they're recommending you to do with the STAR questions, that's one of the things that you need to do. Okay, so if you've never done an interview before, this is what I would say. Okay. There are two types of questions you're going to be asked in a job interview. The first kind are the standard questions. And you know what these are. These are things like, tell me about yourself. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why should we hire you? What are your salary expectations? Why did you leave your last job? Do you have any questions for us? Those are the standard job interview questions. There's about 10 of them. Excuse me. Okay, so you can go online or you can watch my YouTube channel and you can get answers for how you handle these questions when you're asked them. Okay, that's kind of the first thing, right? The second type of question you're going to be asked in a job interview is a behavioral question. Okay, that's where they ask a question like, tell me about a time you did something, right? And everybody is going to have their own personal answer to those because they're based on our experiences. Excuse me. Right? So those are the questions that you're going to have to answer with a personal story. And to prevent your answer from rambling on for 10 minutes, a good idea is to answer using the STAR format or any number of similar formats that they have out there. It's not a stupid idea. The problem with behavioral questions is that there's literally an infinite number of questions they could possibly ask you. I could make up a unique question right now. I could say, tell me about a time where you showed creativity on working on a project that you've never done before, and you had to work with people that you've never really worked with before that you don't know. How did you handle it, right? There you go. There's an original behavioral question for you. Now, have you prepared for that? Do you have an answer prepared? No, right? So the way you answer those types of questions, those behavioral questions, is you come to the interview pre-prepared with a number of stories loaded into your head, right? That you've practiced saying them in the STAR format. You vetted these stories. They're safe to say. There's no red flags in the stories. So I recommend like maybe 10 of them. Okay. And these are like stories from your past. So it's not really much of a stretch. But vet your answer, practice them a few times, and then they're loaded in here. And then any behavioral question they could possibly ask you, your answer is going to be one of the 10 stories that you prepared, right? The one that that's closest to, right? And you may sort of tweak the wording when you answer based on exactly what they asked you, right? Okay. So if you prepare for the standard job interview questions, and then you prepare for the behavioral interview questions with the STAR stories, that pretty much has got you covered, right? The thing you would do then to really learn how to do an awesome interview is you would sort of practice in two phases. The first phase is by yourself. You learn the answers, you say them to the mirror or whatever. The second phase is you practice with somebody else. You get a friend or family member, or if you've got money, you can get like an HR representative. A lot of HR companies provide the service for a fee. You get that person to do a practice interview with you, a mock interview, right? And they ask the questions and you answer like this is a real job interview. There's a hell of a lot of difference between practicing in front of the mirror and practicing when you got some strangers staring at you and you're like all nervous and you're put on the spot, right? Like if you feel a little uncomfortable, in that situation, that's good because that simulates what a real job interview is probably going to feel like. You're not going to be perfectly relaxed and comfortable, able to think clearly, on the spot, right? So if you really want to do it right, that's what I'd recommend. Okay. If you see what I'm saying, 2 types of questions and then 2 phases of preparation by yourself and then with somebody asking questions. It's called a mock interview. Okay, so you do that. I mean, you should be able to knock it out of the park. You know what I mean? And then it's just a matter of, getting a bit of experience. The more interviews you do, the better you get, right? So there you go. That's what I would say. Tong says, people online say you need to talk about company's value and connecting with it. Is it too kiss-offy, or should these things be rehearsed too? Well, 2 points. First of all, you don't want to be kiss-offy because, as we all know, that's the great demon that we all, fall prey to every day. And secondly, somebody on the internet couldn't possibly be wrong about something, right? So if people online are saying that, then it must be true. That's all I can say. Listen, if you're like, going for the first interview of your life, it's not the worst advice ever. It's not the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but it's not exactly brilliant, The reality is that most candidates don't know enough about, the company's value. What the hell would you know about the company's value? First of all, what do you know about the company? Not very much, other than looking at a web page for a few minutes, like, wow, there's no way anyone could possibly know what the company's value is looking at a website. You know what I mean? So that's the reality. Listen, all you basically want to do is convince them that, you'll be a good employee. What does a good employee entail? Well, it means, first of all, that you know how to do your job, right? You're qualified to do the job. That's the first thing. A lot of people think that that's where it ends. Wrong. There's a lot of people qualified to do jobs. That's why it's hard to get a job. It's obvious. It obviously doesn't start and stop with being qualified to do the job. The bigger part is that, think of a boss who's hiring a junior employee to work in the boss's team, right? They hire the person they like the best. They hire the person they want to work with, right? So the most likable candidate is usually the one who gets it. So of all the people that they interview, maybe 5, 6, 7 people that they interview for a job on average, usually the most likable is the one that they offer it to, right? By definition, every one of those 5, 6, or 7 people is fully qualified on paper to do the job. The only reason that would be an issue is if they lied about their qualifications, right? Because they're never, the recruiter or the hiring manager is never going to pick someone who's not qualified on paper to come down for an interview. What would be the point? Even if you love that person, you can't hire them because they can't do the job. They're not qualified to, right? So the only people they would call in are people that are qualified. So when you get down to an interview, they're talking to 5, 6, or 7 people that are all qualified. So illustrating that you're qualified for the job is not the be-all, end-all. That kind of gets you to the interview, but who gets selected is the qualified person that they most want to work with, right? What does that involve? That involves charisma. That involves being agreeable. That involves communication skills. That involves, interpersonal skills, being able to work with people, things like this. It also involves, and people are going to hate this, but it involves a certain fit in the sense that you're the same kind of type of person that the boss is, so that, you stand a chance of getting along, and not having constant miscommunications or constant differences of opinion. You know what I mean? So all of that stuff kind of is what the job interview is about, right? So it's good to go down there and be technically prepared, but also remember, the person that gets it tends to be the most likable, and that involves being agreeable, having great communication skills, good rapport, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's usually how this stuff works. So hopefully that answers your question there, Tong. Now about the company's value and stuff. I mean, no, like it's not, once again, it's not the stupidest idea in the world, but it's not great. I wouldn't worry about that. Just say look, I'm here to, if you're being hired as a engineer, just say, I'm here to do my job as an engineer and to do a great job and to enable you to do your job as my boss. That's what I'm here for. If you're working in customer service, you say, I'm here to serve the customers, be a great customer service attendant, to do my job and to help you do your job as my boss. That's what I'm here to do. That's my goal. That's what I assume that, you guys care about, and that's my priority. So I'd leave it at that. Okay. There are 21 people here. Thank you for being here. Get in the chat if you guys have questions about careers, hiring, job search, that kind of stuff. Let me know. I'm here to answer your questions. Thanks to Tong for asking a couple of really intelligent questions. And if Jojo is still here, I'm interested to hear some qualifying background to that statement about it being hellish. I can well believe that. If you have more to share about that, I would encourage you to do so. If you are confused about job search and you are looking to get some clarity on how this stuff works, how everything works, what are your options, how to get a job, where to find the jobs, how to go about getting interviews, once you're in the interview, how to go about getting the offer, and once you've gotten the offer, how to negotiate. Okay, if that's what you're interested in learning, check out that course, my Get Hired course. There's a link to it in the description. All my advice in one place, templates and processes and all that. It teaches you not only how to get a job in the posted job market, but how to get a job in the hidden job market. The hidden job market that's where all the jobs are. 80% of jobs are hidden, meaning they're not technically hidden. It just means that they're not posted publicly. So you can't discover them by doing an internet job search. Okay, like going to Google and searching through Indeed or LinkedIn or something. Okay? Only 20% approximately of jobs are posted publicly. They're usually the dregs of the barrel, and that's the stuff you find on Indeed and LinkedIn. Now, if you don't understand this, or this is new information for you, don't take my word for any of this. Go out, do your own research. Go corroborate this from multiple sources, okay? Go figure this out. And I encourage you to do it. The more you learn, the more of this you see, the further you'll go. And then if you have questions about it, come back and ask some questions. Here, this is my platform for answering questions. I don't really respond to comments on videos. I just do these live streams. But if you want to learn how to get a job in the hidden job market, maybe if you're an introvert, something that you shy away from ideas like networking and stuff like that, check out that course. That's not only how to get a job in the posted job market, but how to get a job in the hidden job market. That can work for you, and it's geared to introverts. So check that out. Let me know your questions. I'm just here waiting for questions. I see there's something posted there. Oh, here we go. I guess there's a lag between these two feeds that I'm seeing here. Tong says, if someone asks you why you want to work at this company, is it the same as tell me about yourself? Is it robotic to start talking through your answer for about yourself if they ask why this company? Especially if they open the interview with that kind of question. Okay, a lot to unpack. First of all, tell me about yourself is usually how they open interviews. It's a total cliche. It also can signal like the interviewer is not particularly good at interviewing. It's like starting a conversation by saying, so, nice weather we're having for this time of year, don't you think? It's like a total cliche. Now, these are all loaded questions. If you're just starting out, you may not know the answer to these. I used to hate these kind of questions because they were created by very intuitive, touchy-feely people types. And as a result, they are very non-literal, There's a question behind the question. What they're actually asking is not what they want to hear, right? So, for example, tell me about yourself. You could tell them all about your food dislikes, your blood chemistry. You could talk about your friends or your ambitions. You could talk about your favorite hobbies or your political opinions or your religious affiliations. Is that what they want to hear? No. In order to know what they really want to hear, you look at the context. This is a job interview, okay? The way you answer, tell me about yourself, is you give them a very, very brief, like 45 seconds, overview of your resume. You start with your education, and then you summarize your resume literally in 45 seconds. You say like, well, as you can see from my resume, I have a degree in this. I started off in this role at this company. I worked there for 5 years. I moved over to here in that role. And most recently, I'm in this role at this company. And that's what brings me here and why I'm excited to learn more about this job opportunity. There you go. That's how you answer it, right? Why do you say that? Well, number one, you sent in your resume, right? When you applied for the job, they read your resume in some way, shape, or form. And based on that, they brought you in for an interview, right? So that means that the content on your resume is safe. It hasn't eliminated you. So the problem with job interviews and these open-ended, retarded questions is, the moment you start going off script, you risk saying something that gets you eliminated. There's no way to tell. For example, I told a story in a video on my YouTube channel about, how to answer, tell me about yourself. And I said an example of like something I saw, which was, I was in an interview. I wasn't conducting the interview. Somebody else was conducting the interview. And they asked a candidate, what sports team they were supporting, and the candidate said a certain team, and the hiring manager who was interviewing them eliminated them because they were a rabid fan of the opposing sports team. They said, no, that's kind of a deal breaker for me, so that's how they eliminated that candidate. Now, how would you know that? How could you have, if you were the candidate, how could you have possibly known that? You couldn't, right? It's not like this person had sports memorabilia all over the place, all from that team or something. You know what I mean? So, so the point is, it's a minefield. And the more you go off script, talk off the top of your head, that's when you risk saying things that, unbeknownst to you, get you eliminated, right? So tell me about yourself. You start off, it's just an icebreaker. You just basically summarize your resume in a very short amount of time. You try and bring the discussion to this job. You do not want to bring the discussion to what you did 5 years ago at some other job that has nothing to do with why you're here, right? You don't want to take up interview time talking about something that you did that's got nothing to do with anything. If you only have a couple of minutes to make a case for yourself, you don't want to take up time with this, right? So that's why I say what I said about the tell me about yourself question. What was the other thing you were asking about? Why do you want to work at this company? In a nutshell, the answer for that is, well, as I understand it, you're looking for someone who, and then you run down the list of requirements that has this education. Well, I have that education. You're also looking for someone with 5 years experience doing this. I got 5 years experience with that. You're looking for someone with these skills. Well, I have a strong background in that, doing that in this capacity, et cetera, et cetera. So it seems like I'm a really good fit. That's why, I'm here and I'd like to work for you guys. Not only does that answer the question, but it also tells them what they're interested in hearing about you. Namely, that you have the things that they're specifically looking for, right? That's how you make a case for yourself. You say, you're looking for this? I got this. You don't make a case for yourself by saying a random thing about yourself that you're proud of, but these people don't give a rat's ass about that. That doesn't help your cause. In fact, sometimes it can hurt you because it dilutes the stuff you do have that they like, Okay, so that's the answer to that. I've done videos on all of these. They opened the interview with that. Yeah. So hopefully Thong, that answered. I knew somebody called Thong. It was a very unfortunate name. So I got that in my head. Anyway, hopefully that answers your question. Michael says, I am sometimes unsure whether I should apply using the standard application process or deviate from it in order to position myself with unconventional guerrilla marketing measures. Are you trying to say hidden job market stuff? 80% of jobs are not posted. They are in what we call the hidden job market. The way you access them, in a word, is through networking. Okay? So the people that, whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, the way you access that stuff is through networking. Extroverts, they enjoy doing this in person. They enjoy meeting people, going to events, blah, blah, blah. Introverts, if you play your cards right and you're an introvert, you can be the king or queen of social media. You apply remotely, you network remotely, and then the only time you go in to talk to somebody is when they've invited you in because they want to meet you, right? That's the advantage of doing networking through social media, set things up, right? That's totally a thing. Every job I've gotten in the last 50 years, and by job, I mean contract work, consulting work, that kind of stuff, it's all entirely been hidden job market. Using networking. I'm a technical introvert. I have a degree in engineering. I'm a technical person who is an introvert. I'm quite a heavy introvert. Introverts can be every bit as good as extroverts at public speaking, conversational skills, interpersonal skills, etc. It's just that we tend not to do it for fun. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, so what you're calling unconventional guerrilla marketing measures I call networking, and absolutely that is the way to go. The catch is that it takes a little bit to learn this stuff if you've never grown up with it. I didn't grow up with it. I had to learn it in my 20s and in my 30s, and then it paid off in my 40s, and now as I'm in my 50s. So that's how this stuff works. Example, Michael says, I once sent an aluminum suitcase with fake money to a company as part of a sales application, included a note saying, if you want guaranteed increased sales, call it. Okay, well, I mean, I'm not an expert of that kind of like marketing stunt kind of thing. For some industries, that's definitely a thing. Some people are open to it. It does get people's attention. But in other industries, that can be a faux pas. It can burn bridges. So you really have to know who's on the other end of that and how they're going to take it. Okay? If you send an unmarked suitcase to a company in certain industries, they're going to think it's a bomb threat. They're going to have the cops on you. I'm not exaggerating. That's the range of of reactions you can get. So okay, fair enough. But that's not what I'm talking about, like with networking. That's almost like sort of like a sales gimmick. Not necessarily bad. I'm sure people in certain industries will respond favorably to that. It'll grab their attention. But there has to be substance behind it, right? Like that's the key. That can maybe work as an attention getter, but then you have to hold their attention with substance. At least that's how I think. Michael says, hope the question is clear. What is your opinion? Okay, well, hopefully what I said makes sense. Okay. It's hidden job market. It's through networking. That's how you get jobs. That's how 80% of people get jobs. DV333 says, hi, Bill. How would be the best way to present myself on a CV and interviews for higher positions than my current one? I feel I have sufficient experience and skills to take more responsibilities. Be at the right place at the right time. And then all the same stuff that I said for a job interview, namely, first of all, the thing that gets you the interview is the fact that you're qualified on paper. But beyond that, you're the most likable candidate. And that's a function of having, being agreeable, having personal charisma, having great communication skills, great interpersonal skills, having rapport with people. That's the stuff that gives them a good feeling about you. But depending what level you're at, like they don't just give away management positions because they like you. You know what I'm saying? The way most management positions are filled is through networking, and it's not simply networking. It's that you have a verifiable track record of success. Okay, so that's how that works. The only time when they would hire someone they don't know or don't have a strong personal recommendation from someone that they really trust is at the lower level. So being like a supervisor or possibly a frontline manager, something like that. But once you get into middle management, if you're trying to get those roles, it happens through networking. Now, just so you know, one example of that is if you work in a place, you're already on the inside, right? You've worked there for 5 years, 10 years, whatever. You know the boss. You've proven yourself to the boss. They trust you. They know you're a good worker. They know you are motivated, that they can rely on you, etc., right? You're a prime candidate to move up, right? That's why it works like that, because they vetted you. They know you. You're a known quantity. They know that when they give you the role, you're not going to turn into a psychopath and just make crazy decisions and alienate the entire workforce. You know what I mean? You're a known quantity. You've put in your time and they know you. So that's why being the internal candidate can help you move up quite a bit, right? If you're trying to get a management job and you're an external candidate, that's where, you have to have some very strong networking. You have to have people personally recommend you to them, people that are basically vouching for you. And that's kind of the minimum requirement for them to trust you. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I already delivered great results in my current position. Unfortunately, there's no more chance to grow. Yeah, that's the catch. Well, then network. Interact with the boss, interact with the boss's boss, interact with people that the boss knows that are above you. See, the people that can help you are above you. There's no point. Oh, I wouldn't say there's no point, but I mean, you know what I mean. When I say there's no point of networking with people that are at your level, because right now they're not the ones that can help you. It's going to be people at least one level above you, right? So these are the people you have to network. They have to know who you are. They have to know you're good. They have to have interacted with you for quite a bit, maybe had a few long conversations with you. They know you know your stuff. They know that you guys get along, et cetera, et cetera. So when they're looking for somebody, right, and somebody mentions you, they go, oh, yeah, I know them. They're pretty good, that kind of thing. DV333 continues. Your advice already helped me to get 2 jobs. Oh, okay. Well, that's good. I guess the first one didn't last, including the current one, and I believe I'm ready for new projects, possibly managing a team. So far, I just had an intern on my charge. Okay, well, that's a start. I wish you the best of luck there, DV333. If you're, if you're on your way up, it sounds like you're on your way up. And, just remember, the soft skills are super important. They shouldn't be important, but they are. They're the first thing people have to go on when they make a judgment about you. Like it or not, that's like the veneer, There could be incredibly awesome substance underneath, but no one's going to investigate that far if the veneer is really off-putting. You know what I mean? So just remember that. Salonia Grawa says, hi, Bill. I'm slightly confused about the job I should pick. One is a full-time job offer in a field I don't want to go into. I'm going to move my microphone over here. One is a full-time job offer in a field I don't want to go into. It's mostly a technical support role, but the pay and the campus is great. Now, I don't see... Oh, okay. Man, this is a long feed. Sorry if I'm falling behind here. The second part says, 2 is a internship in ops and finance that I really wanted, but it's low pay and has the possibility of a full-time in 1 to 3 months based on performance. I have already graduated. Okay. Well, listen, I can't answer that for you. It not only does it depend on the details of these things, but it also depends on what are your goals, right? So it's going to depend on a variety of things. What you can do that will help, okay, is there's a couple of things you can do to get some perspective here. If you're wondering about the internship, okay, this is kind of an open secret. I've talked about this many times before. Go on LinkedIn. You may need the premium version of LinkedIn to do this, okay? If you don't want to pay for it, excuse me, you can get the sign up for a month kind of thing for free, and cancel before the end of the month. So go on LinkedIn, and in your geographic region, do a people search, limit it to your geographic region, so your city or whatever, and do a search for that internship, okay? Now, what it should show, this is a people search, so it's going to show individuals as the search results. These are people that they either are in the internship now or they've done the internship and moved on, okay? Look at their profile. Excuse me. I'm having some problems. Look at their profile. What did they go on to do? Did it open doors for them? Are they all like CEOs of Fortune 500 companies now, or are they all pumping gas? You know what I mean? So that should help you figure out the value of that internship. Now, if you can't find anybody looking up that internship, that's maybe a bit of a red flag too. Not many people are doing it. It's not really a known quantity, Do the same thing for that other job. Okay? Look at the people that have been at that company in that role. See if you can find any people like that. Have they gone on to incredible things, or was that like the peak of their career? Are they now unemployed? You know what I mean? Like, get some perspective on these things, and that might help you make a more informed decision. If this is a really big deal to you, you can go a step further. You can then reach out to those people, the people that have taken that internship or the people that have been in that role with that company, and ask them, say like, could I give you a call? Like, you can message them on LinkedIn or whatever. So say, hey, would I be able to give you a call? I'm thinking of taking a position similar to the one you had at that company. And I'm just interested in hearing your experiences or your opinions on that, doing that role at that company. If you're okay with speaking with me, would that be okay if you could send me your phone number, or or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, you can always do this. Now, most people, they won't respond, but some people will. And that way you can get your information right from the horse's mouth, right from these people that have done it. And then you can make a more informed decision. Okay, so hopefully that helps. That's always a way to do it. I skipped over a bunch of stuff, so I'm going to come back. Francisco Fierro says, I've been having zero success for the past year in landing interviews. I meet and or exceed the posted minimum requirements and often have the most preferred requirements. If I receive any further communication from the employer, it is usually in the form of thank you email, thanking me for applying. They've decided to move forward with a candidate that fit. Okay, so here's what I would say, Francisco. Here's how it works. First of all, these days, because it's so easy to apply for these posted jobs, everyone and their brother and their brother's dog and the dog's fleas are applying for these jobs. Okay? So they've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applicants for each of these jobs. So they can afford to be extremely picky, right? So the only way that, you would get selected, really have a reasonable chance of being selected for an interview, is if your stuff matched exactly. And we're talking about like even the wording, even the terminology they use, right? That's why you have to apply with custom resumes. And if they're asking for a cover letter or something, it'll be a custom cover letter. It's an open secret that a great way to generate these is to use AI tools like ChatGPT and Grok and stuff to use to generate your resume and generate the cover letter. Because the idea is that you're going to be highlighting only the things that they've asked for and highlighting them big time, and then using their lingo and their terminology. So when they do keyword filtering and all this kind of stuff, it lines up perfectly with your resume. Okay? So that's unfortunately what you need to be doing to stand a reasonable chance to get a call back for interviews when you're applying for posted jobs, okay? The other thing that I always have to say, because a lot of younger people and people starting out don't know this, is that all those jobs you see, that's only something like 20% of all the jobs that are actually out there. The other 80% of jobs you're not seeing, they're not posted. You access those in a word through networking. Okay, so instead of getting up every day, looking at job boards on your computer, firing off a few applications from your computer, instead of that, you get up, you go to social networking, you go to sites like LinkedIn. Okay, you go to sites like Google Maps, you find all the employers around you. Okay, and you reach out to those companies directly. You find the name of all these employers. You look up each employer in LinkedIn. You see inside of the company to the individual managers, to the hiring managers, right? Not the recruiters, the hiring managers. If you're an engineer, for example, if there's an engineering company near you, who do you want to speak to? You'd probably speak to the head of the engineering department. You would not talk to the person who's running the sales department. You would not talk to the person who's running the HR department. You would not talk to their chief financial officer. You'd talk to the person who's running the engineering department, right? If you're an engineer wanting to get hired. Okay, so who's their lead engineer or their chief engineer or director of engineering operations, whatever they call it. Reach out to that person. The simplest possible thing you could do is you send them a standard template note that's about 2 lines and you say, hello, my name is whatever your name is, right? Francisco. Whenever I say that name, I picture somebody with a hat with an enormous feather in it and a cape. My name is Francisco. And you say, I'm an excellent engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer who specializes in this. I solve this problem. If ever you're looking for a first-rate mechanical engineer to join your team, please let me know, because I'd love to work for you. I know you do work in this area. I live nearby. I'd love to work for you. Have yourself a great day. Right? Now, what happens is that, as I said earlier, most jobs are not posted. Why are they not posted? Because if this engineering manager is looking to fill a position, they need to hire another engineer for their team. They're going to hire someone like you who sent this note. They're going to give you a shot at it first, because the honest fact is that writing job descriptions, job postings, working with HR people like recruiters, sitting in round after round of job interviews, that's a pain in the ass and it's a lot of work. And if they can avoid that, they will, right? That's why most jobs get filled through other means before they have to resort to posting it publicly, right? Okay, so this is how you can get in with that like first or second round of people that have first dibs on it, right? Rather than waiting for like the fourth round or fifth round of people where they post it publicly and now they're interviewing strangers, people that haven't shown any particular desire to do it or suitability for it. They're just going to random strangers, anyone that wants to apply, you can, right? Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. That can help hopefully get some traction in your job search campaign using either of these methods, preferably both. Customizing your resume and your application and doing networking to tap the hidden job market. I6D6 says, that's a frustrating and common question for job seekers. The best way to answer is to reframe the issue. Okay, you're answering questions that other people are asking. Let's see here. Francisco says, better I go back and research who was hired, and usually I have more experience. Yeah. So what does that tell you, Francisco? What's that telling you? It's telling you that it's not all about education and experience, and it isn't. They're not looking for the most qualified person. They're looking for the least risky person. They're looking for someone on paper who meets the minimum qualifications. Beyond that, other things are more important. Because let me tell you, there's a lot of people out there that are qualified to do jobs. And a lot of them are insufferable. Some of them are crazy. Some of them cannot interoperate with other people very well, right? And what they find, what everyone finds, is that those flaws matter way more than the fact that this person is technically more knowledgeable or has more experience at something, right? That's the reality. Now, we can hum and haw about that, but that is the reality, okay? So that's what's guiding their behavior, right? Okay? So that's why you're seeing this happen. Because it's not all about who's got the most education or the most experience. There's a lot of terrible employees out there that have years and years and years of experience at being terrible at their job. And they think that that qualifies them to be a good employee because they've been doing it a long time, right? That's crap. There's a lot of people out there also that have a lot of education. The education is either Mickey Mouse education that doesn't really teach you anything, or it just lets your ego swell because you think you're so much smarter than anyone else. Meanwhile, everyone else has been actually applying their knowledge, whereas you've been sitting in school. There's more than one way to look at these things, okay? Right? So it's not all about who has the most education or who has the most experience. Both of those are imperfect a lot of times, right? Okay? So that's not what this is about. If you show up and you're like, you've got a PhD, but when you sit down, you're looking like this. And, that you've lost the job right there before you opened your mouth. You know what I mean? That's an extreme example, but You can see where I'm coming from, hopefully, like what I'm trying to say. Okay. This thing. Sorry, I'm so far behind. I normally try and do these things where I answer every question, but I'm falling further behind. So I apologize if you're waiting a while here. I've watched many of your videos and apply what I learned from your videos. I'm 55 years old. Well, then you're just coming into your prime, my friend. You know? You have tons of experience in 3 different industries and a lot of carryover. So yeah, that's awesome. Exactly. You kick ass. You've got a ton of experience and you've still got the energy to use it. You're in your prime. Don't let anybody ever tell you different. I only include experience specific to the job. I'm lost at this point and looking for any suggestions. First of all, Francisco, you're awesome. Don't worry about it, okay? But that's the key. If you're pursuing the posted job market, the key is customizing your stuff to like feed back at them exactly what they're looking for, right? That's what gets you past all the stupid AI filters and things so that you can get in front of a human being and then make a case, right? And if you're going for the hidden job market, which is where you really should be looking because it's like 5 times bigger than the posted job market, it's networking. And even if you're an introvert, you can network like a boss, you know? So look, tune into that stuff, okay? I mean, I've got a course. If that's the kind of thing you're into, I have a course that covers all these in detail. I have a lot of stuff free on my channel. Not everything that's in the course, but but learn all you can about this stuff. That's what it's about. Guy03i says, is it a good idea to apply to multiple jobs at the same company, either at the same time or in succession after rejection? The company seems large and advertises many positions. There isn't one answer to that. For example, if they all go through one person, because they're all in the same department, that's one thing. If they're all going to different departments, that's something else. If they're all going to different departments, it doesn't matter. Apply to all of them if that's relevant. If you are qualified and it's a relevant job that you want. If they're all going to the same person because they're all in the same department, then there can be a disadvantage because it seems like you're just desperate for a job. You don't really have any one job that you're suited to. That's the role that's appropriate for you. You're just applying to everything. Now, if that's the case, I know where you're coming from. It's not like each of us are qualified to just do one thing. Most people are qualified to do many different things, right? And a lot of jobs overlap in their skill requirements and what you do. So I get it. The problem is that it appears like you're desperate and unfocused. Okay? In that case, what I'd maybe recommend, see, the best way to get a job is through networking. So in this case, maybe try and contact the person at the company that would be the one that receives the applications. And you ask them, you say, listen, I've got some skills in this area. I've got this degree. I've got this experience, these skills. I see that you're posting for a variety of positions in this department. Now, there's some overlap there between what you're posting for and what I have. Based on the fact that I have this, which jobs would you say I should apply to? And see what they say, And it can go from there. If they respond, you have a dialogue with them and you see where that goes, right? But that's maybe how I would handle that. Hopefully that helps. And as always in the real world, everything happens some of the time. So these are just very general guidelines, right? There's no way to know for sure. Extreme 10S says, is it okay to slightly lie and extend the end date of my last job by 1 to 2 months to reduce my job gap? You can. I'm not going to advise you on that about lying. You decide for yourself what you want to do and then take the consequences. Excuse me. I6D6. I've spent the last few weeks rigorously refining my resume and online profiles to ensure specific keywords and core competencies for the job. Okay, well, that suggests that you have a static resume that's not changing for every job you apply to. In order to get anywhere with posted jobs these days, you have to customize every single resume and every single application you send. So every application has a custom resume. And if there's a cover letter or anything else in there, those are also customized, right? The age of like sending one resume to all kinds of jobs, that's over. Unfortunately, I have to say. Fortunately, the solution to help us with this is AI, is things like ChatGPT. You enter in a master version of your resume. You say, here's my master resume. You paste the text into ChatGPT. You then say, here is the job posting. You paste the entire text into ChatGPT. Then you say, I would like you to create a custom version of my resume that's tailored to be the perfect candidate for this job. So what it's going to do is it's going to write a custom version of your resume. It's not going to include things that are irrelevant. The things that you have, that is what they're looking for, it's going to amplify it. It's going to use their terminology to describe it. It's going to put it front and center on the resume, so it's very prominent. It's right up front. It's going to give lots of detail, as much detail as it possibly can about those, and it's going to minimize the detail on things they haven't asked for. Okay? And that way you have a fighting chance of being selected. And core competencies from job descriptions are clearly and explicitly mapped to my experience. I'm making sure my stellar track record gets seen by the right people. Now, here's something that maybe you know, maybe you don't, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is the thing, we live in an age where people love to like tell other people their stories, tell other people about them. Here, let me tell you my life story. Now, if I did that, right now we've got 39 people watching this live. If I did that, I'd bring it down to 0 in a certain amount of minutes, because nobody gives a rat's ass. You know what I'm saying? When you go to a job interview, they're not interested in you. They're interested in, do you have what we're looking for? Yes? Okay, I'm interested in hearing how you have what I'm looking for. No, you're not? Okay, then goodbye. We asked, do you have this, this, and this? That's what we want to know. Okay? Oh, you want to tell me your whole life story? Or you want to tell me this thing all about these other things you have that you're really proud of, but they're not what I care about? I don't care. I'm not interested in hearing that. You're turning me off. I'm getting a bad feeling about you. Right? Confine yourself to saying to them only the things that they want to hear, that they're interested in hearing. If they said, we're looking for someone with this experience, tell them about your experience with that. If they said, we care about these skills, tell them about how you have those skills, how you develop them, and how you can use them. Don't say, oh, by the way, I won this award for my coaching of a little league soccer team. If they're not asking for that and they don't care about it, it's a turn off, okay? So I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm just saying that's a principle. So wisen up, make sure you're incorporating that principle, okay? You're not going down there to talk all about you. You're going down there to focus on them. What do they want? What are they interested in? Oh, you're interested in that? Okay, let me tell you how I have that, right? Okay, I can't remember where I was here. Now I'm focusing only on positions that leverage my core strength, mentioned skills. Okay. DV says, thanks, Bill. By the way, the first job your advice helped me to get didn't last much because unfortunately the company had to fire 13% of the total global employees. But luckily I got my current position. Okay, well, good. I'm glad that you landed on your feet there, DV333. And best of luck to you. These skills, they last your lifetime. You know what I mean? Learning about people, learning about speaking to what people are looking for, and getting along with people, learning how to network, all like this stuff. This is what your career is built on. I6D6. I'm actively using my professional networking platforms like LinkedIn to connect directly with people in the roles I want. Excellent. Good. Continue with that. That will hopefully pay off for you. I've been reviewing my process and believe the issue isn't my qualifications, but the optimization of my application materials for modern ATS systems and a lack of direct referrals. I'm now actively refining my resume keywords and expanding my network to ensure I bypass the general application pile and get my strong qualifications in front of hiring managers. Yes. Yeah, in this day and age, and I mean, for a very long time, hiring managers usually don't have to post jobs because the good employees are knocking on their door saying, you know, I'm awesome at this. I know you guys do this. If ever you're looking, please hire me. You know, I would love to work for you. They're showing their initiative. They're showing their passion. And when they make a good impression, they're showing their communication skills, their professionalism, blah, 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 right? They're not talking about it. They're demonstrating it, right? So if you've got people like that beating down your door, why would you ever post a job, you know? Francisco, I always submit tailored resumes and cover letters and use AI too. I've heard that ATS can weed out AI input, so I use AI to shine. Yeah, you know, like once you get to the point where it's like AI trying to outmaneuver AI and stuff, then we can all agree that this process is retarded, it's ridiculous, and you don't use that vector to get a job because it's become self-defeating, you know? Just like we're getting to that point where we're doing interviews now where you do them online, but now it's not even in real time. There's not even like a person on the other end of a video link watching you. Instead, you're recording your answers to job interview questions, almost like filming a video, and then they keep that video in their library, and if they feel like it, they'll watch it later, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So if you get eliminated with the first question, they don't have to sit through an entire job interview listening to you talk, right? Like once we get to that point, the whole thing becomes ridiculous. And we've actually seen how a lot of qualified applicants are pushing back against that. They're saying like, no, I don't have to do this. You know, they're going around that system. They're getting jobs through networking like it's always been, you know. So there comes a point where it's like a law of diminishing returns. You know, we're not going to play the game anymore. It depends how competitive things are. Francisco says, I appreciate your insight. I need to buy a feathered hat. Yes. You know, I recently discovered that there is a superhero called Captain Canada. Now, I've never heard of Captain Canada. I'm Canadian. I lived in Canada my whole life. I've heard of Captain America. Oh, yes. They never tire of making wonderful movies that everybody loves and watches about Captain America. But no one ever talks about Captain Canada. Anyway, if they ever made a movie on Captain Canada, they need to have Captain Portugal, who has that hat, right? At least we can all agree on that. I6D6 says navigating the hidden job market. Okay, target the right people, focus on hiring managers, directors, VPs, team leads over recruiters. Recruiters manage the posted market, hiring managers only up. Absolutely. Many employers now prioritize proven skills, portfolios, and demonstrated results over the level of a degree. Yeah, that's a reaction against like Mickey Mouse education that has become a problem in the last 10 years. Don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of very valid education out there, but the problem is it's being watered down with a lot of stupid ass like degrees or qualifications that people just invented. And there's a lot of schools that are behaving increasingly like diploma mills, where, you know, they regard their students as customers who pay, like paid customers. They paid, therefore they should get their paper at the end, their piece of paper. And they're reluctant to fail people or to hold, you know, the education to any kind of quality standard. And so that way the schools make a lot of money, you know, selling to a lot of students on the promise that this is a useful piece of paper you're getting. But in practice, it's some of them, it's not really useful. It doesn't really enable you to have any useful capabilities, really, that employers would be interested in. So that's why this stuff is starting to be a reaction to that, you know? Where did I leave off here? I6D6. Continuous learning and upskilling become far more valuable than a single terminal degree. Well, once again, you can't really make blanket statements like that. Sometimes yes, but sometimes no, depends on the details. Given the rapid obsolescence of knowledge, well, once again, not necessarily, it depends. What are the 3 most effective strategies a professional can apply to ensure their continuous learning process is not just reactive, but proactive, anticipating that's critical skill? That sounds like a bullshit management speak, jargon, gobbledygook type thing. And how should one measure the effectiveness of the proactivity? Yeah. No thanks. First of all, you started off with something that's false. Okay, rapid obsolescence of knowledge. Well, in certain industries, in certain capacities, absolutely. But no, most things are not, I wouldn't describe most industries like that. Like accounting. Is it obsolete? No, it isn't. 95% of accounting that we had like 40 years ago is still in effect now. It's like, yeah, they've tweaked a few things since, but the vast majority and all the fundamentals are all still just as true now as they were 40 years ago. Engineering, science, same thing. Yes, we've learned more and we keep pushing back the boundaries of knowledge, but like it's not obsolete. You know what I mean? So no, in certain industries, yes, but in most industries, no. So you started off with a false premise, so I'm not going to even try and answer that. And there's, that's the kind of thing that people that have never actually run any kind of business operation, but yet are in business, that's the kind of question that they ask. Very theoretical, very flimsy, highly dependent on tons of assumptions, and in the end, useless. So no offense, but I'm going to skip that one. Where did I leave off here? Salonia Grawa says, thanks, Bill. Your advice is incredible. Oh, well, thank you. And I've had a shockingly high success rate in interviews because of your advice. Big thanks. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you, Salonia Grawa. I appreciate that. We're going into Spanish. Well, I6D6 says, thank you. You are brilliant. Well, thank you. Hopefully you're talking to me. I appreciate that if you are. Feedback and coaching models, data analysis, linking performance to business outcomes. Okay. Captain Canuck's character is less about massive super battles and more about strategic secret agent operations mixed with superhuman ability. I would have thought that Captain Canada, specializes in boring the pants off people and, apologizing. That's the superhero apologizes for their very existence. Just as Captain Canuck defends the nation against, we're really getting into the tough questions here. Just as Captain Canuck defends the nation against global conspiracies and advanced technology, the modern human resource professional defends the organization against contemporary internal threats like unethical AI. I would have thought that the Captain Canada and the HR department are both saving us all from the dangers of common sense. That's how I choose to look at it. Now, listen, everything exists for a reason. The way HR, they approach things, it's because of a certain reason, right? A lot of times they're looking for people at the low level, at the worker level, maybe the supervisor level. That's basically where you use the HR department in terms of recruitment and selection, right? Where a body is a body is a body. You just need someone in there that's got these basic skills, they can do it. If they don't work out, you let them go and you replace them with somebody else and see if they're any better. Like, that's really what their function is. Once you get up into like the mid-level or the higher mid-level where, you're in charge of business units, you do not rely on the HR department to pick people for you, because what the hell would an HR department know about picking a manager? The people that work in HR have never run a business. They've never managed a business operation. They've never, like some kind of revenue center, profit center, or cost center. They've never done that. So how the hell would they know how to pick winners? It's like getting a coach of a football team or a hockey team or something who's never played football or hockey. Like how would they know which players to pick and what advice to give to them to make them outperform? They wouldn't know that, right? You need to sort of know the subject matter of what you're dealing with. So if you've never run a business operation, how are you supposed to be able to choose someone who can do it as opposed to someone who wouldn't do it as well? So HR works at like the lower levels, the bottom level and maybe one or two above the bottom. And that's it. For everything above, they don't rely on recruiters to pick people. The recruiter is a grunt, no offense to them. They're some of them are pretty skilled at what they do, but they're basically just like a clerk. They fill in the forms and they schedule meetings and things like that. They might give advice on a few areas, but they certainly don't decide. It's the vice presidents and it's the managers who decide who they employ, for better or worse. Because at the end of the day, at least they can say, well, I've done that. I've run that operation, so I have an idea of what might be required to do that. Anyway, the rant over. Francisco says, do you have any advice for how to include relevant experience that isn't recent, but consistent over the years? It is a skill set that I maintain and use in my current industry. Okay, so how to include experience. You're saying it isn't recent, but it's something you use including in your job right now. Wouldn't that make it recent? Like if you're using it now or recently? Like it's an ongoing thing. It's ingrained or intrinsic or endemic to the job you do. You can maybe tell me if I'm on the right track here. I'm trying not to date myself by not adding the dates over 10 to 15 years old. Okay, listen, here's the annoying thing here. Generally speaking, recruiters don't care about something you did 15 years ago. Usually 10 years ago is a stretch. What I've heard from recruiters is that they only care about stuff in the last 5 years. Now, you old timers out there like me, you are probably horrified to hear that because you have decades of experience. And we both know that that stuff is extremely relevant. If you follow this strategy, anybody who's got more than 5 years experience, it just plateaus. Like there's nothing beyond it. And we all know that's crap, right? So, but that's when you're dealing with recruiters, that's how they look at that stuff, right? What's the solution? The solution is to stop dealing with recruiters and deal with hiring managers who can appreciate the fact that you've put decades into building up your knowledge of, like, I don't know, sales, customer service, operations, all the support functions. You've maybe worked in multiple roles within an industry, and you're starting to put that together. It gives you extra capabilities, having seen all these different roles from the inside. You know what I mean? The hiring manager will appreciate that. Recruiters can't because they've never worked in that industry themselves. All they've ever worked in is HR, right? So if they're hiring for an accounting role, like the role of a senior accountant or something, they don't know the first thing about accounting, right? So they create these artificial rules like, oh, anything older than 5 years, we don't care about. And then they make up nice sounding things like, if you don't use it, you lose it. Meaning if you haven't applied those skills after a certain amount of time, say 5 years, then they regard those skills as not being there. This is all stupid. So this is why you try and deal with hiring managers more than recruiters, especially if your career is longer than 5 years. You know what I mean? Okay. People don't care how old you are. Like you're talking about not dating yourself. People don't care about how old you are. If you've contacted them for a reason and they like talking to you, you know what I'm saying? They don't care about arbitrary bullshit like this. They really don't. So we can play a guessing game of how to operate in this silly artificial world of recruiting. I'm not sure what the answer is. If they're not going to regard anything older than 5 years. How do you make it relevant? You obviously can't assign a date to it. I would maybe put it on your resume, listed under your current job when you say your role, and then you give accomplishments or you give details about the role. I would maybe list it there. That's all you can do. And just say that I do this and I need to know this. Kenny Bazzi Closer. Awesome. Says, how would you approach pursuing a job that you have no actual experience in, but it is a dream job that I want to pursue? For me, it is to get an executive administrative role. However, I don't have the experience. Okay, here's what I would say. Go on LinkedIn, okay? And as I was saying before, you may need the paid version of LinkedIn, the premium version. If so, see if they have that whole like sign up today and get a free month of premium and then cancel before the end of the month so they can't charge you anything. Okay, so you may need the premium version. Go in and do a people search and confine it to your geographic region, like your city or whatever, and then do a people search for the title of this job, this dream job of yours, okay? And what it's going to show is the results are going to be people, right? And for them to show up in the results, it means they're either in that job now or they previously were in that job, right? So then look at their profiles. You can see their career track. It's like looking at somebody's resume, right? So you can see, how did they get that job? Did they get that job right out of school? No? Okay, what did they do? Oh, they worked for 10 years here first in this role. So they came from school, worked 10 years in that role at 2 different companies, and then moved into that dream job role, right? Look at somebody else. Are they all following the same career track? Do they all spend 10 years in that other job before they move into the dream jobs? If so, that strongly suggests that that's what you're going to have to do if you want to be in that dream job role. Does that make sense? So you're looking at, like, this is how many other people have gotten into that job. Now, if it's always different, that tells you something. There doesn't seem to be a standard track, you know? But if it's all the same, they all follow the same path, then there you go. That's the path for you if you want to move into that job, right? Now, that can tell you a certain amount, right? But you can also go a step further. Now that you've found these people who've been in that job before, if you want, you can also reach out to them and contact them and say, hey, could I give you a call? I'm interested in that job. I see that you've been in that job. Would I be able to pick your brain and get you to maybe share with me some of your experiences and your opinions on, like, the nature of that work and nature of that industry, you know, that kind of, and like ask them, you know, like if I want to be in that role, what skills do I need? What experience do I need? Is that like just in name only, or is it you really do need that, you know, to understand how to do this job well? And talk to them, do an informational interview, like give them a phone call, or if you can, go down to meet them. That's going even further, but that will give you the answers to your specific situation. Okay, that's how you go about doing that kind of thing. Francisco, I tried a functional resume that fell flat. Yeah, I mean, it depends what you're going for. Some people have like a hybrid resume. It's like, you know, the first half page is like a functional resume, and then the rest is a chronological resume. The last resume I had for myself, like 10 years ago or whatever, was like that. That's the format I had. Because it basically, in management, it explains, like, this is my approach, this is what I do, this is what I'm good at doing. You call me in to deal with these types of situations, that's what I specialize in, you know, blah, blah. And then you give like a conventional resume afterwards, you know. But I mean, I never got anything just solely on my resume. The reason you get stuff is because people know you as a person, and they also know your track record. So that's the thing. You're not just saying, oh, I worked at these companies that you've never heard of, and it's unverifiable. You're saying, I've worked at these companies and you've heard of me over the years because we've been in the same industry. So they know you're an authority on there. That's what does it. Francisco, you hit the nail on the head. Understood. Hiring managers. Yeah. Yes. The be warned though, some hiring managers are awesome and some of them are pretty crass because they don't deal with recruiting as their function. That's not like you're not dealing with a recruiter who is trained on how to recruit. Hiring managers, it's just a boss. It's a manager, so some of them are really good at, handling this and others really don't know what they're doing. So, and depending on the industry, they can be pretty eloquent and professional, or they can be very blunt, But it's not a reason to shy away from it, I can tell you that much. Occasionally, and every once in a while, you're going to encounter some jerk. Just take it all in your stride. Just have as little to do with them as you can and keep moving, because the next person you encounter will be amazing. You know what I mean? It's a nice mix of this stuff out in the real world. So don't let encountering some jackass dissuade you from reaching out to fellow human beings, because a lot of them are pretty damn decent and some of them are really helpful and they can really open doors for you. Kenny says, I am currently using the free month of LinkedIn Premium. Right on, Kenny. Then you're down with the secret knowledge, right? Guy 03i says, if I have a job, I don't need to pay for LinkedIn. If I don't have a job, I can't. Yeah, that's the irony of it, isn't it? Premium 1 month is great. Yeah. So in that case, Guy, then you would probably care about that little tip of getting the free month. Figure out what you want to do with it in advance so you don't squander that month. And then, when you have an idea of what you're going to do with it, then pull the trigger on the free month thing and then just use it day and night, and do everything you want to do. And hopefully you don't have to pay for anything. It just it bears fruit. Wow, we've reached the end of the chat. There's 39 people here. We're coming up to the hour and a half mark. Let me know if you are wondering about anything that I can help you with. As I said, this is my first day back after, I think, more than 2 weeks off. I took nearly 3 weeks off live streaming. So I did come back once to do the collaborative live stream with Abby. Every 2 weeks on Mondays, I do a collaborative live stream with me and another YouTuber. Her name is Abby. She's a recruiter. She's from the YouTube channel Life Work Balance. Not work-life balance, life work balance. And she's got a YouTube channel similar to mine. We talk a lot about the same stuff. And I did that. So every 2 weeks we do one of these where we answer questions, but it's the two of us. So you get her perspective as a professional recruiter. You get my perspective as a CEO and all-around business guy, entrepreneur, and the teacher and mentor and all that kind of stuff, consultant. And between the two of us, we don't always agree on everything. She has her own opinions about stuff. I got my own opinions about stuff. But you get a better cross-section of answers for some questions. So we do that every 2 weeks on Monday. We did it last week, so we are scheduled for next Monday. So I did do that. But other than that, I've been away from this for a couple of weeks. Brenda. I'm not sure what the significance of saying Brenda is. Is that your name? Brenda, my account for networking. Thank you. Yes. Awesome. I like a good solid statement, communication. See if you can make it a day, just communicating with statements of one word. Just see how that goes. Let me know how that works out. That might be kind of fun, actually. Kenny Blazer Closer says, I appreciate the advice, and I saw a video about directly reaching to CEOs and hiring managers in the area and people in your desired role to find out instead of just applying on job boards only. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an open secret. It's like people have known this for years. That's how the job market works. The problem is that a lot of people, for whatever reason, are not telling, younger people and, people that they don't grow up doing this. Nobody's like really talking about this openly. I suspect I know why. Here's my theory. You guys can tell me if you agree. Like a lot of things, it's because if people haven't heard of this, they tend to not be great at it right off the hop because they're just not ready, as a lot of people would put it. And if you are ready, you've heard of it. That's why there isn't people evangelizing and saying, hey, there's this thing, like I'm doing, right? The only reason I'm doing it is because I'm an introvert and I didn't pick up on this until later, much later than other people do. All the extroverts, they've been talking about this for at least 10 years, at least, before I ever heard about it or did it. You know what I mean? And that kind of bugged me, So I guess that's the disadvantage of living your life under a rock, basically. But yeah, there's a lot of people that can be awesome. It really isn't rocket science. It's just learning a few simple principles, and then it's experience. It's just going out and learning how to talk to people. Like, for example, reaching out to someone who is in some way one level at least higher than you that you don't know. You don't have to deal with them through your job. You don't know them on a personal basis in real life. You're reaching out to them. Now, some people, a lot of young people, if they've never been taught that, you have no idea how to go about doing that. First of all, before you even worry about what you say to that person in your message, you first of all think like, I don't even have the right to talk to them. That's something I've seen a lot of people convey. Who am I to talk to them? And my answer to that is like, well, who do you have to be to talk to them? You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be, I guess I'm old and I've just lost the perspective of being like 22 years old or whatever. It's like, I guess it's intimidating. It's really intimidating. It's not intimidating if people tell you, here's the protocol. Here's how you make a request. Here's what you say. Here's an appropriate way to say it. Here's, the etiquette. Excuse me. But if no one's ever taught you that, there's a lot of people that just, first of all, they vehemently deny that there's something called a hidden job market. Like they refuse to believe that's a thing. Then they think, and I'm going off like, feedback I've got on this YouTube channel. Then they think, oh, it's some kind of conspiracy. It's some kind of weird nepotism, favoritism network of people who help each other like a secret society. It's like, no, it isn't. It's just, you reached out to a company rather than applying for a job. You have the right to talk to whomever you want in a free society. They have the perfect right to not respond to you, but you have the right to mention. So if you're qualified for a job that they need, there's nothing to stop you saying, hey, I'm qualified in this. I could maybe help you if you're looking for that. You know what I'm saying? So like, this is the kind of stuff that I've always wondered, why don't they teach this in schools? Like, I just don't get it. There's got to be a way of like teaching people this. Even when people are young, even when they don't understand like why they would need this, or they haven't thought about jobs, like maybe so when they're in their 20s, they can think back to when they were 18 and they were taught this, maybe it would help them out. Anyway. Okay, I6D6 is Brenda. Okay, gotcha. Okay, well, thanks, Brenda. I appreciate that. Vicky says, thank you so much. This is really helpful. Well, thank you, Vicky. I appreciate you saying that. Kenny Bazzi Closer says, just out of university, I got a job at a medical office and stuck around for 3.5 years before moving on. And all I was taught before was just apply everywhere on job boards. Yeah, I mean, listen, traditionally that worked, it still can work, but it's getting tougher and tougher, because ever since the internet got here, and then things like social media got here, and then employers and businesses started embracing it, it's become easier to post jobs, easier to apply for jobs. And the easier it is, the more people do it. And therefore, for every job now, you get like 1,000 applicants or something. So they have to employ AI filters and things like this to deal with that. So it's changing the game, And now you're up against the problem of having to deal with AI filtering, like ATS systems and stuff, So that's the problem. But it would be nice if education could keep up with this stuff, or at least not be 30 years behind, maybe just be 5 years behind, and teach people, Anyway, rant over. And that, Kenny Bassey Closer says, and that didn't lead me anywhere. All it brought me was an unfulfilled job, not making enough money, etc. And now I discover that solving problems, strategic decisions are more aligned with what I love. Yeah, now you have a couple of options. Like earlier today, I did a live stream on entrepreneurship called Side Hustle Ideas. Now, for some people, entrepreneurship is a very real career possibility for them. It's an option. It's never been easier to do that kind of stuff, to work for yourself. Okay, but the caveat is that you need a bit of knowledge. You need to know a little bit about business, right? Okay. Most people still get traditional jobs. They basically say, I don't need to know how to turn my value into cash. I'm going to rely on an agent to do that for me. That's your employer. The agent says, you don't worry about that. You just do your thing that you're qualified to do. You let us worry about how to change your value into cash. We'll do that for you. So what they do is they do it, and then they take about 60% of it for themselves. I'm not knocking it. I was a CEO. I mean, that's, what businesses do. It's a division of labor. You deal with the work, we'll deal with selling it, right? But the problem is that for some people, that doesn't make sense, because they can generate incredible value and they have a lot of capabilities, and they would do much better on their own. So for those people, entrepreneurship is a thing. And when you're young, it would be nice if people introduced you to this as a possibility. If you have a rebellious attitude, you don't follow the herd, that combined with some technical skills to create value, you can do something or create something that other people want. And then combined with that, you've got the personality, you're a bit more extrovert, you're into connecting with people, understanding what makes them tick, you have an idea of how to persuade them, that kind of stuff. If you have that sort of triad of skills, you can kick ass at doing this kind of stuff. So for those people, or people that want to develop those skills, I highly encourage them to pursue it. That's why we talk about side hustles. It's a great way to put your toe in the water and test this kind of thing, the world of entrepreneurial ventures, without taking huge risks, either financial or personal, to do it, right? So every Monday we talk about this. The first stream I do every week. So check that out if you're interested in that, or you have questions about that kind of stuff. But for most people, traditional jobs are the way to go. It's just that, when you're doing the networking thing to get the hidden jobs, you are borrowing some of the skills from the world of entrepreneurship. You're going outside the rules, outside the process to get ahead. No one's telling you now need to phone the hiring manager or contact the hiring manager of that company. You're deciding to do it yourself. There's no protocol. There's no procedure. You're writing the rules of what you're doing. You know what I mean? That's actually a great thing. Once you learn how things work, you see that there's all kinds of amazing opportunities there. You get the job not because you were more qualified or more experienced than anyone. You got the job because you're the only one that showed up. That's how that works. That allows you to elevate yourself above the crowd. Most people are not even considering that as an option. But you are. And of the one people that showed up, you're that one person that did. And you got ahead of the line for all the others. You know? Anyway. Okay, check out my course, the Get Hired course. If you're looking to get hired, all my advice in one place. A lot of people have taken that. I don't think we're at 1,000 yet, but we're close to 1,000 people have taken that course. Check out the link in the description. I've also made a video talking about the course, what it teaches you, how it works, what you get, etc., etc. All of that is in the description box. So check it out if you're interested. It teaches you how to get hired in the posted job market and how to get hired in the hidden job market, especially if you're an introvert. It caters to introverts like me. So there you go. If that's what you're looking for, that's where it is. Any last minute questions? If anybody has, we're going to be signing off in a moment, but if anyone has any questions about job search or careers, type it into the chat. I will do my best to help you out. Francisco Fierro says, thank you for sharing your vast experience. I feel energized again. Well, that's great to hear, Francisco. You're awesome. You know, you're going to knock it out of the park. Always remember, never ever forget, when we're between jobs, we feel like at the lowest point in our lives, pretty much. Our self-esteem is shot. Our sense of self-worth is taking a real beating. And ironically, that's the time when you've got to A, endure the most rejection you're ever going to endure, and B, have to appear the most confident. You know, so it's a real gut punch. So if that's where you are right now, you're not alone. You're normal. Congratulations. And know this, it's temporary. You're going to be okay. Okay. Just do your best to find out about the right things. Whatever you're doing, if it's not going anywhere fast, be open to doing more than one thing. Okay. So, you know, do a couple of different things, at least in a job search campaign. Apply to posted jobs. Also, maybe investigate networking. You know, there's a lot of things. There's a video I did about 6 weeks ago, I think. It's about 45 minutes long. It's called How I Would Get a Job. And I walk you through 11 different methods of getting a job. Okay, so if that's of any use to you, check that out. It's on my channel. I don't have a link, but it's called How I'd Get a Job. Just look at my recent videos. It's about 6 weeks to 2 months ago, if that's of any use. And I'm going to be live again on Wednesday, so come back then if you have more questions. Thanks very much. You guys are awesome. Keep your chin up, and we'll see you soon. Take care.